Welcome to the table for the Friday, May 9, 2025 installment of Mark Plus. Joining us now, Mark Gold. Slow week in Chicago, huh? Nothing to talk about?
No, having a pope come from your hometown isn't, it happens. Well, I guess it hasn't happened. That's why it's big news in Chicago.
And you thought it would take a lot more to knock the Cubs off the headlines.
Yeah.
I mean, the way they're playing right now?
Well, the Cubs have been playing pretty good ball, but it turns out the Pope is a White Sox fan, so that's something. We can't forget to say Happy Mother's Day to the mothers out there.
Well, mothers are looking around at these. They're going to be busy watching headlines this week about tariffs.
Yes.
What do you expect? I mean, the U.S. is sending the Treasury Secretary and the trade rep.
Yeah.
Those are not low-level people.
No.
That's a significant sign.
Yeah.
What does that tell you about the tariff talk?
Well, we did this deal with Great Britain. Really wasn't much of a deal, but it was something. It's good for beef, good for steel. I don't think it's possible to get a real deal done. There can be a framework agreed upon, but is it going to be a real deal? Who knows? But what I'm hopeful and praying for is that the Chinese will at least say, okay, we're going to honor phase one. And we're going to buy the billions of dollars of agricultural products we promised, I think it was in 2018, that we never did. They blamed COVID. We didn't need it because of COVID. Okay, we don't have COVID now. Yeah, your economy is not doing great, but you got to feed your people. So, hopefully that will come out of this deal. If that happens, corn, wheat, and beans all should move higher just on that news.
The president has shown little patience for slow-moving talks.
Yeah.
Does that hurt or put extra pressure on negotiators in all of these trade talks?
Well, I think you saw with the deal with Great Britain that he wanted to get something done, made the phone calls to get it done, and wanted a deal. Is that going to happen with the Chinese? I don't think so.
But is that a lowercase d deal or a big D? Because the tariffs were, I think, very low 6 months ago.
Yeah.
10% when they came into the negotiation. They're leaving at 10%.
Yeah.
Little changes in other areas.
Yeah. In my opinion, it's a little D.
Yeah.
But it's a deal. And that made the headlines, and that was helpful for the stock market. At least it firmed it up for the day. But the big D is China. The big C is China. That's where we need the business. They need the grain. So
are you of the opinion then that if there's no China, we're in trouble?
no, because the Chinese haven't bought much anyway. There are 10-year lows on imports of soybeans from everybody.
I say not including Brazil.
Yeah, including Brazil. So it tells you that their economy is so bad that they're just not buying as much. They've cut back their hog rations, soybean meal and their hog rations. Good place to start if you want to save some money and save buying beans. But the fact of the matter is they're going to need the grain, and hopefully we'll see something positive.
The chart here it's pretty range bound in that 1045. We closed 1051 and 3/4 on Friday. It's kind of been where we're at. Is that a little bit, though, Thursday, Friday in anticipation of Monday, more than other factors?
Is it the trade deal over the weekend? Is it the weather, which is turning drier? Is it WASD looking to maybe shave some more? We expect 5 million cut off of the old crop beans, 20, 30 million off of the new old crop corn. So maybe that's part of it in here. But Monday, I think, is going to be a very interesting day. We've got first the inspections, then we got the WASD, the results of whatever out of the trade deal is going to be there, and then we've got crop progress. So it's going to be an interesting day all the way around.
Yeah, you've been saying it all week about it will likely double progress.
Yeah, I can't imagine we wouldn't.
Yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of good dry days in a lot of areas, except in the east.
If you want to see how fast American farmers can get a crop in the ground, just take a look at the numbers on Monday in states like Illinois, Iowa, Nebraska, Kansas, and the rest of them. Mm-hmm. You'll see how quickly they can get it in.
Well, let's talk Wisconsin here if we could. Gary in Wisconsin wants to know, Mark, good all-around export numbers did not move the market. Does this mean that the traders are only looking at the possible large new crop, or are they just waiting on USDA numbers?
If they're looking for new crop and that's all they're looking for, I think they're looking at the wrong thing, particularly this time of year. I say that because the USDA is going to plug in trendline yields. we all know that these crop progress numbers are going to be huge. And if that's the only thing they're looking at, okay, we get the corn in the ground on time, on schedule, great. Now it's a weather game. Now it's a trade deal game. So, and a WASDE game to some extent, though this report, isn't going to be that critical unless they really shave the corn numbers. I think it's going to come down, but not as much as I'd like to see it come down.
Traditionally, it takes a lot to move USDA off of plugging in trend lines in May and almost in June. What does it take to knock off and start wobbling some of these?
I don't think you'll see it until at least July because the June numbers, nobody's going to come off of those numbers in June. I don't care if we're hot and dry right through the end of May. I don't see anybody changing those numbers because really, what does it mean? It means one good rain and we're good. If we don't get those good rains in June, now they're going to take notice, and that July WASDE should start to cut it back.
Or we have to have it like what we had in 2020. I mean, that was a market mover that, I'm not saying that they're immune to making the same mistakes, or same assumptions.
I think they generally try to keep it, what have we done in the past? Let's not go too far from that. In the flood year, what was that, 93?
Yeah.
Maybe they made some changes there. But I don't really see them changing it too early.
Well, let's talk numbers again for years. You mentioned 93. You also mentioned 88 during the main program.
Yeah.
We've heard whispers of 2012. If you look at data from drought monitor maps at this point in 2012 to now, you see more drought on the map.
Yeah.
Does any of that give us something to look at, something to ponder?
I think it does. What it doesn't do is give American farmers the green light to go get long everything and not sell a pound. Because, again, in 50 years, I've seen so many of these weather gurus. And in my opinion, they certainly tend to the bull side because that's what you remember. I remember he made me a ton of dough in the 83 or 88, and he's my guy. And we've certainly seen in the last 5 or 6 years, guys get it absolutely wrong. So, do I want to be telling farmers now, load the boat because of what's happened? It looks like 12. It might look like 88. No, but you got to keep your eye on it and watch how this thing starts to move. And if we, have any kind of good news on Monday, would I be looking at buying calls back to replace anything I've sold? That I might do for sure.
Last thing on the weather. We talk about genetics and seeds changing. So is the weather forecasting.
Yes.
The science and what we look at. We can make ourselves numb looking at so many numbers and charts. So there's a little moderation here, right?
Oh, a lot of moderation.
Fair enough. All right, let's go Mike in Iowa if we could for Mark. Even with all the good demand for corn, it just seems to want to go down. Where's the bottom?
I'm hoping, sometime soon, but, even in the 88 market where we had all that heat, we didn't make our lows until the end of June. And it was really, that's when we saw some good things happen. Same 83. We made the lows on June 30th, had the pick report, and then things took off. Then we were hot and dry over the 4th of July, and then boom. 88, we made our highs early that year, actually in June, and then started to back off. And then mid-July, it just tanked. So there are some similarities. We can have a rally in June, but most likely it's got to be pretty severe to see that happen. That's why I can't tell anybody, just lay it all down on the line and, step up to the crap table and roll the dice. But what you can do is look at doing something realistic and rational, which is if we start to get, the more we start eking into it and it's drier and drier, get a few more calls on.
So if I hear what you're saying, we're not in the gamble mode yet. We are much more, we still have an opportunity to play some things safe.
I'm never in the gambling mode.
Okay.
Except when I'm in Vegas, and then I am. But when it comes to managing risk for farmers, I'm never in that mood, in that reign.
But let's take the premise of the question, continuing to go lower.
Yeah.
We take another 25, 50 cents off of corn, heavens to say a dollar. Then you start to get a little more nervous, don't you?
Can corn go under $4? Yeah, it could. Is it going to happen? Are we going to go to $3.90? I don't believe we will. Between inflation and everything else that's happening in this country, and not ideal weather to start with here, I don't think it's possible.
Okay.
Can we go to $4 corn? $4.10? Yeah, it's possible. I think the odds are against it. I don't see, there are a couple of option plays that make some sense in here on the put side, but not many. It's not a no-brainer. And, again, you want to spend 10, 15 cents on corn. Hope you lose every penny of it, and corn goes to $6. Let's do that.
Yeah.
Let's have some fun with this for a change.
Well, let's go higher with the last question then. Kennedy Farms in Oklahoma, and this is with the rain in the southern plains and a break in the drought in that area, are we likely going to start seeing a growth in the herd? If so, are we well on our way to $3 feeders? Yes, I know we hit $3 ahead of this taping and when this question was written.
Yeah. The question becomes, can we sustain $300 feeder cattle? I agree with his premise that maybe pastures should be picking up here, looking a little bit better. Maybe they'll put some more cattle on feed or in the pastures and raise more cattle out here. And I think that's a good thing. I don't know what's going to turn the cattle market around, but I think we've got to see it break in the box beef first, so that the consumer is saying, okay, we're done, and we're going to switch to something else. So until that happens, or until we see a bigger supply for whatever reason, whether it's cattle coming in from Mexico or any place else, it's hard to be bearish the cattle. But again, at historic highs, you cannot be complacent and not do something to help manage that risk without taking on more risk.
We've done something with you. We've had a good discussion. Thanks, Mark.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Mark Gold, everyone. A reminder to get signed up for the Market to Market Insider newsletter. It's free. Sign up at markettomarket.org. That's open anytime, by the way. Next week, we are going to have a look at a long-running Midwest refugee center that is worrying about the future. And we'll have the commodity market analysis with Matt Bennett. Thanks for joining us. Have a great week.